Hi everyone, my name is John and welcome to this course called Personal Financial Management for Employees. And today we're focusing on employees because I've been an employee and at the time of shooting this video, I'm still an employee. I'm a banker. Now, let's begin on employees. Now, who is an employee? An employee is somebody who works in a company, either public or private, or works in the government and reports to work for certain hours, or works in a number of hours in a day and gets a salary or a wage. Employees basically have a retirement age of, here in Kenya, is up to 60 years. So maybe from the time you graduate or from the time you join the employment to the time you leave the employment, which is around the 60 years, that's when you're considered as an employee. So you've been receiving a salary, or if you work, you're employed in a private sector where they pay you on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, where you get a daily wage, then in that case, you're still an employee, but you get a wage instead of a salary. But regardless of the source of income, whether salary or a wage, and you're still an employee, means after you get that payment or after you get that that wage or that salary, you can do four things with that wage. The first thing you can do is either spend. The second thing, you can save that money or piece or a portion of that money, or you can either invest that money or you can start a business. But most cases for employees, starting a business can be a bit tricky, because remember, if you're an employee, it means your source of income is active. You trade your energy and time to get that salary. And also when you're in business, it means for most cases, if it's a sole proprietorship, you are also involved in an active activity for you to generate that profit. So in most cases, you find companies are a bit strict. If you let's say, for example, like a banker, you have to disclose or declare what you're doing and whether that business will affect your production levels at the place of employment. Now let's look at the four things you can do with your income. Let's say first one being spending. For your spending means you can either spend your money on basic needs or secondary needs. The basic needs means things you can do, you can't do without. These are mandatory, these are basics. Means you need them for survival, such as food, shelter. We all need shelter. We need clothing. We need education. We need health. These are things that you can't do without. These are things that you prioritize when you're budgeting your money, your salary. The other type of expense or your spending is the secondary, which these are things you can do without. These are things you can do without. I repeat, for spending, you can either spend on basic needs or secondary needs. Basic needs are things you can't do without, and secondary things, let's say the pay TV, the Zuku, the DSTV, these are things you can do without. They form a portion of your salary depending on how you allocate your money on either basic needs or secondary needs. It's upon you, but we'll go into details on the consequences of what you decide to do with your money, on whether spending on basic or secondary needs, and most specifically on the secondary needs. Now let's look at saving. Saving simply means putting money aside for future use. This can be either on short term, maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months, or it can be medium term, let's say 6 months to 1 year, or long term goals, let's say above 2 years. These are money you're setting aside to meet a certain need. So saving, it simply means putting money aside. From that portion of your salary, you remember you've gotten your salary, there is a portion that goes to the expenses, and there's something you're saving, something you want to do. Maybe you want to start a business, or maybe you want to enroll yourself in a class, you want to do your master's, or you want to repair your house, or some of the things that you need some money, but you can't just pull that check from chunk from your salary, so you can save bits by bits. Let's say you want to raise 10,000 in 5 months, you can say I'll save 2 months, 2,000 every month, so that at the end of 5 months I'll have 10,000 for me to meet my short-term goal. Investing is different from saving. Investing means putting money in an endeavor that it's able to generate more income in your absence. Let's say, for example, you've bought shares today. That share you've bought in that company, you're no longer there. You don't work in that company, and the company has other employees who work in that company, and you have other investors also. But at the end of the trading period, you get yourself dividends in forms of the return on investment. These are passive, you get passive income. So there's a difference between saving and investing. Saving is putting money aside. Investing is putting money aside in a form that is able to generate more income in your absence. So this is basically passive income. The quest for investing is to generate passive income. Shares, after the end of the trading period, you get the dividends, or after some time you can sell your shares at a price higher than the buying price, and the difference is called the capital gain. So that's still a form of gain that you've gained or you've gotten from the investment. The real estates, you buy land, and the land appreciates and you sell, then that's an investment. You don't have to be there to push the price upwards, but it's form of passive income. Or maybe you have rental income, where you've built houses for rental purposes, and the rent you get, the rental income, which is passive, forms your source of income, or supplements your current salary. And also, let's say treasury bills or bonds, these are called government papers. These also form parts of investments, and you get interest at the end of the trading period, especially for the treasury bills. Whether you invested in the 90 days treasury bills or 182 treasury bills or the 1 year 365 days treasury bills, what you get as a result of investment in those government papers, you get the interest. Treasury bonds also, this is long-term borrowing by the government and pays you interest either semi-annually or depending on the type of the bond. We'll get into this when we're discussing investment options. There's a module that is covered, that we cover in our other training courses, where we go into greater details on understanding the investment options. Let's briefly just talk about the business. Like I said earlier, if you're an employee, then doing business can be a bit tricky. And also remember, when you're starting a business, you are the vision carrier, which means you're the brain behind the business. And then most of the times, depending on the commitment you have in your current employment, you might not be able to oversee the current running of the business. And I've seen people opening and closing businesses, not that the business was not viable, but because they were not there to see it through. And remember, business also has its ups and downs, and at times calls for that patience. And you being there to monitor and find out and figure out what is happening in the business. And at times, if you've employed someone to take care of the business, and you're just coming there maybe over the weekends to look at the business, and you find that the business is not yielding as per your expectations, you might decide to even pull out. And at times you pull out prematurely. And so when you're doing business, when you're investing and you're an employee, when you're opening a business, still under the employment sector, still as an employee, can be a bit tricky. And this is something that you need to figure it out very well. And should not maybe... I've seen people getting fired because of conflict of interest. Maybe the kind of business you're opening, especially people working in the finance and investment sector, and you open a related business, can bring a lot of conflict of interest, and that one can either ruin your employment or affect your business. Now, that's a simple breakdown of how the employees' money circulates. That is, from salary, you can either spend, save, invest, or do business. Spending can either be on basic needs or secondary needs. If it's saving, you can either do that on short term or medium term or long term goals. Investing, this is where you're putting money in a form. Let us look at the key behind you getting control of this, because this is where, how do you balance this? How do you know that we all know that at least most people know that they should be saving about 20% of their income and maybe 10% on their tithe if you're a good tither, and the 70% you can allocate that into spending about 65% and maybe 5% or thereabout on your savings. But people know that. It's just like the same thing that happens. How many people knows that they should practice, or they should embrace exercise as part of their core activities for the day, in order to live a healthy life, to have a healthy body? Most people know that, but how many people have embrace that? How many people actually implement that? Very few. The same thing happens with the money management. It's a habit that you need to embrace. It's a change of lifestyle. It's a change of thought. It's a change of actions. Or it's a change of how you manage your finances. And it starts with being proactive. Being proactive, the opposite of being proactive is being reactive. So money management is not a quick fix thing. It's something that you embrace and change the habit. Being proactive means you realize that now you've been employed up to 60 years and then you get that pension. Right now you're going on strike because whatever you're getting is not enough. Let's say you're getting 100,000, people are still complaining they're not getting enough. And how about when you go home and retire, let's say, and you at the age of 90 and you get your pension is around 20,000 or thereabout, or even less. Actually, in most cases it's even less than half of what you're getting. So how will you sustain your life? Also keep in mind that that time you have a lot in terms of health, which is under basic needs. You need specialized food, you need shelter, which is warmer and more comfortable clothing, more special, and most importantly the health, which is an expensive, and also our bodies are aging. So we need to consider that. After we figure out that, then we need to come up with ways on how to invest. You need to start investing as early as possible so that when you hit that age of 90, you'll be able to supplement what will be the retirement benefits. You'll have passive income in form of rental income, in form of dividends, in form of interest, in form of rental income, for example. So you need to be proactive, and being proactive is you need not to start complaining. People always complain about the government, which protects them, or they work in the government. You stop complaining. And I've seen people who are focused on what they can do, working from the circles of influence, and the circle of influence grows larger and larger, and they get a higher pay, which means if they're able to manage their expenses, they're able to invest more, which also in turn increases their salary, which it's basically the income or the salary. And after they go on retire, or they're able to live a comfortable life, because they'll have sufficient passive income. So being proactive is very important. Stop complaining, start working on how can you supplement your income, or how can you be good employee in your place of work, grow, and also so that you can salary can grow, and also take care of how you manage your expenses in order to allocate more on savings and investing. Vision. You cannot do all these things. Let's say, for example, you want to reduce your pay TV from 7,000 to around 1,000, or the basic platform of 800, so that you can allocate the 7,000 into investments. How would you do that if you don't have a vision? A vision is what you can see with your mind's eye. That is what you want to achieve. For example, let me give you this metaphor. If you want to build a house, You build it in the head, in the mind first. You say, this is how the house will look like. I want doors, sliding doors, or you want the bed to be this way. You want the windows to look like this. So that's the end that you have before you even go to the first things first. Before you start the actual buying, or before laying the first brick, or before even buying the first nail. So we need to have a vision for ourselves. At the age of 90, what do you want? What do you want? Where do you think you're headed? By that, you'll be able to say, now for me to get there, I need to reduce some of these expenses so that I'm able to reallocate more into the investments column. And through that, you will be able to guarantee yourself some passive income in future, which can supplement your income in future and also live a good life. So before you do the first things first, you see, after you have the end in mind, you're able to say, now, what is first? Is it the pay TV or is it the investing? If it's investing, then you'll be able to cut down the cost on the secondary. Remember, it's very hard to do away with the basic needs, because this you need them for survival. But the secondary needs, you can crush them. You can crush the secondary needs in order to have savings and also investments. Now, effective communication. Here, I'm looking at you as a role model. I'm looking at you as let's say, for example, your husband or your wife or your mother or your father, you have your kids. There's a way you've been balancing things. There's a way you've been living. And now you have changed focus because you have another end in mind, that you need to increase your investments, which means, and you want to reduce or do away with the pay TV. You have to be an effective communicator. You have to share the end in mind. It's you taking the responsibility as a role model, and you want to create presence of the new way of doing things, which means you have to be an effective communicator for you to start working on how maybe to cut down your costs and secondary needs and reallocate more on the investment column. Teamwork is very important because we're working on a complementary team. I'm looking at it from this way. If you've involved your colleagues, or you've involved your family members, they'll be actually the one even making the point of maybe even going to deposit the funds to the bank account where you invest. So getting a complementary team is very important because you want all of you to win. You don't want to ruthlessly cut down salon expenses for you to do the investment, but you want all of you to be on the same page, having the same vision and planning. Now, especially on the second one, the vision, having a vision. I've seen countries have visions. They have national anthem. Companies have vision. They have mission statements. I don't know why we don't have them. For our families, we don't have mission statements for our families. And that is very important. If you have a mission statement in your family, you have a common vision, and you come up with a vision, a mission statement. Then, when you're doing all this, then you'll be on the same page, and that will reduce a lot of wrangles in the family. I've seen people who have neglected effective communication. Yes, they've gained the financial gains, but at the end of it, you find they've lost their families. Yes, you have money, but you lost your family. You've been fighting with your wife, you've been fighting with your husband because you're not communicating. You don't have effective communication. And the best way to communicate is to seek first to understand, then to be understood. Let me repeat that. To effectively communicate, you need to seek first to understand, then to be understood. So you need to understand them first. Then, after they feel completely understood, then that's when you bring in your new way of doing things or your perspective. You should not rush it. You need to be patient with them. You need to make them see what you're doing. And for every journey, you keep on reviewing and renewing yourself, especially on investment options. You need to keep learning. You need to keep, especially also on savings, you need to keep tracking your level of accomplishment. It's very important to have these reviews, and these reviews are all inclusive. Remember, what we want to achieve is an effective money manager as an employee is for you to grow your mind. When you're learning a lot through those reviews, then you keep learning on investment options, you keep learning, that's sharpening the soul. You want to do things more in a more informed way. Then for your heart, remember, when you're doing all this, we want our families, or we want people who are bonding with others. And when we are doing this kind of, you want to increase your income even in future. We want to be guided by integrity. We don't want to kill for you to get money. We don't want to rob for you to get money, but I want conscious. We want to get genuine money. We want to have a lifestyle that will say, we lived with the family. Our brains kept on growing. We kept on growing our relationship ties. And at the end of it all, we left a legacy that is you being an employee, you being a father or a mother, being a child, loving the life that you lived. And that's what matters. And I hope that serves you. That's just a brief course. I hope that serves you. And until the next time, when we'll be covering other topics, maybe on self-employment and how the flow of how they can effectively manage their finances. Remember, there's a deep dive course that we offer in our membership site. That is www.johnmuindi.co.ke. And also down below this video, you can like the page, post your comments, post your suggestions, and God will bless you. So, thank you, and see you next time.